Seasoned professionals.
Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. My name's Helen Webster and I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott, and our inspirational guest today is
Jimmy Moutray.
Welcome, Jimmy.
Jimmy Moutray, also known as James when he's being naughty.
That's it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So we do have a little format. Thank you, Jimmy, for giving your time for us tonight. And we're really super interested of listening to your story, but we'll find out a little bit more about that later, okay?
No problem.
First, we're going to shout out to the kids or any little people who've done amazing things this week. My list is like this.
Go on, you go first, Hal.
Okay. So I'm going to shout out to James Walker. So he goes to a little football. It's my friend's little boy. He goes to a footy class and he won he's only 5. He won a trophy for good listening a couple of weeks ago. This week on Sunday, he won for most improved. And she just sent me the most beautiful picture. He's gorgeous anyway. Sent me the most beautiful picture with the biggest grin and this trophy. And I was just like, so he's had good listening and now he's most improved. So massive shout out to James.
Brilliant.
Well done.
I'm then going to give a shout out to a little person who's like 6 foot. So Ben Ellenson is doing his work experience with us and he's 14 and he's like taller than me now. But he came yesterday for his first day and because we do all mad stuff, you have to like fill all these health and safety forms in and all this. And I was going, oh, mate, just let's start and then we'll do it. And so he was brilliant. I know we're not supposed to do that, but we did. But he's brilliant. He's been today and he's here with us for 2 weeks and he's just nailed it. He's absolutely ace. So well done. We went to a new school with new people and he was brilliant. So big shout out to our Ben. And then a big shout out to the kids in Holy Rosary who we've been with Monday, Tuesday, today and yesterday. So it's National Sports Week in schools and they have celebrated by having Lewin. So we've taught 400 odd kids over the past 2 days and the dinner ladies. So yeah, so there you go. What about you, San?
Sorry, just to say, I love it in a school where you go and the dinner ladies all get involved and play. I think that's great because it's a school when they do
a boss. Yeah.
Instead of looking at us in horror, what we're doing because we're taking over the hall with Lou. I hate it when that happens.
Amazing.
Isn't it? Yeah. So I've got a shout out to my little nephew who I've been doing a bit of teaching with, just 30 minutes. We don't even do 30 minutes. I said 10 minutes a day to start with. He's doing half an hour now. I have to say I've got to go by who's not really into school. Anyway, we've been doing these sessions on and off for a couple of months, and some days I can do it work dependent, etc. Anyway, he goes, do you mind if I invite my friends to join? And our Sue said, he comes out of school and he goes, I'm doing karate cats with Sandra, which was the thing we started off doing for literacy. And we do all stuff and everything. And he just loves it. And we have like 20, 25 minutes every day, 3:30. And we do a bit of, and I was like, no, you can't bring all your mates on the session. It's for you. So, and he got stickers and everything. So massive shout out to Ethan Wild. They're proud of him.
Massive shout out to Ethan. What about you, Jimmy? Any little people that you want to shout out to?
You know what? If I didn't shout out to my 2 little children, then they'd be shouting at me. So Millie, who will be catching up on this tomorrow, and a little shout out to Finn as well, because that was his first sort of introduction to school today as well. He went in for his little taster session and he managed to make it through the hour and a half without being kicked out. So that was a success.
Brilliant.
Oh, they're just too cute when they're that big, aren't they? You know, when they go into like new schools and it's like new things and new adventures and it's just super exciting, but also a little bit nervous for them. So big shout out to them there. That's brilliant. Emma Rose Sweeney's listening and she goes, woo, go Jimmy, with lots of little smiles. Like that.
That'll be the auntie.
Oh, thank you, Auntie Emma, for listening in. Okay. I also want to shout out to all of the students who it was like a few of them have finished their A-levels and a few of them have finished their GCSEs. So enjoy the summer, have a great time, and well done for just getting through it all, because it's been a tough 2 years for our young people because of situations and stuff. So big shout out to all of them. But you're done now. Put your party hat on and off you go, isn't it? Okay, a success this week for you personally, something that's happened to you. Jimmy, do you want to go first? Because I'm going to save Sandra for last on this one.
Oh, success this week. Well, to be fair, this is my first podcast, first sort of live show doing anything. So I'll give you the kudos for that and say that that's been it's been something I've been looking forward to, and hopefully from my story getting messages out there, but further reaching further afield than my normal sort of remit. So yeah, this is a nice way to spend the week.
Brilliant. And it's a success for us because I can't wait for everyone to hear your story because it was inspirational, which is why we invited you on the show.
Thank you.
What about you, Hal?
Well, I'm just going to say, Jimmy, what happens is people come on our show and they get like catapulted to greatness. So you'll be on like the couch soon.
Yeah, by half 8.
Yeah, you wouldn't believe it. Everyone's on they come to us, then they go to Radio Merseyside usually. Oh. And it gets escalated. And then we had someone on the telly and we were like, see, look.
Yeah, it's all because of us, isn't it?
All because of us. There we go.
My success this week was last Wednesday, I was invited by LLS, which is a teaching school for young sports coaches, to go and deliver a day teaching them. And because I teach disability fitness, I made some safety goggles and I put different tape on for different types of visual impairments. Right. We tied a few arms up so that it was if they were amputees. We could still break fall if we did it very in a safe way. We did ear defenders so that it sounded as if it was a bit muffling. Then we had a few who were maybe non-verbal selective mute. And then it was dead funny because they all had to play the sports and then they had to teach each other knowing of like, and they were absolutely amazing. So you got these young lads who were like 16, 17 and girls as well. The girls were cool, but the lads were amazing. And this lad put the glasses on and he went, oh, I can't see, he said, and he kept on taking his glasses off. And I went, oh, mate, I said, you can't take blindness off. I said, you've got to keep it on. And he went, oh, I'm going to keep these on. And he kept them on for about an hour and a half. And then I'd done it so like, it was like tunnel bit. And they said, if I turn my head to the side, I can see. And then he was saying to his mates, move forward because I can't see you. And it was just the awareness from them and the conversations that it opened was amazing. So massive shout out to LLS and all the young coaches, which was brilliant.
What a great thing to do.
It was ace. Jerry Jones is listening. Big thank you to Thornton College for a great prom, and Thornton Got Talent staff are amazing. There you go. Perfect.
Well, my success is so. Jimmy, there's been an ongoing gardening saga in my life. I've tried a few activities over the past 3 years, some of which have gone well, some haven't, but I'm determined and God loves a trier. Anyway, the Bachelor went west, but the gardening I've kept going with. So we're year 3 now at me trying to go. So I planted 18 tomato plants. What am I going to do with them? Because they all shot up a while ago. I'll be giving tomatoes. But as I'm digging along, I find the 2 spring onions are planted last year. So here is the start. So for people who are listening on the podcast, I'm starting to show the beginning of a spring onion. Okay. And it keeps going and it keeps going and it keeps going and it's going and it keeps going. And I've measured it and it's 3 foot. It's a yard. It's a yard tall spring onion, which I was like that. What? Anyway,
have you checked the Guinness Book of Records?
I doubt it, but I will have
Google.
Oh my God, imagine. Anyway, they probably have them 7 foot tall. But I did the little one yesterday. It's sister, which was lovely. So I'm going to eat it.
Did you eat it?
Oh, of course I'm going to eat it.
Do you not think like it's 3 years old and it's like 6 foot?
Right, 3 years has escalated. It was planted last spring.
Okay. So
if you're going to eat it, I'm glad that this is virtual.
Yeah. And often onions take 2 years, Hal. When people, they take ages. Oh, you just eat them willy-nilly. You've no idea the effort that goes into these growing things, believe me. So I'm made up with myself. I think it's hilarious. So here we go. I'll take that. I can eat the green parts. Kujit Sangir. Well, indeed.
There you go. Perfect. Okay. Well, I don't want any thanks, but enjoy it.
I'm made up with myself.
I made up that you're grown. I think it's Boss, and I just thought it was hilarious when she went like this. And I wanted to get the music. What was it? Tony Hawk music as it went across. 3 foot. Well in, mate. What's that bit on the end?
They're the roots.
No, that's the bulb. What's that?
That's the top of the spring onion, because they'll come out into a flower if you leave them, the top of them. And it was massive, right? Look, and then I picked it, and within 2 days it deflated. Very interesting. There we go. Gardener's World. Let's move on.
Perfect. Okay. So successes, we've done that. Okay. This or that. Jimmy, I am going to ask you, and Sandra's going to ask me and you. Okay. Sandra, you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
You can go first today, Hal.
Okay. Jimmy, skydive or bungee jump?
Ooh, bungee jump.
Wow. Okay, Sam.
Nowadays, bungee jump. Historically, it would have been skydive, but no more. Bungee jump.
Have you done a skydive?
No, I've done paragliding, and I always wanted to do wing walking, but no, not now. Oh, it's great. I like to stay on the aircraft, not to jump out of it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't really like to do either, but I've always wanted to do a skydive.
I wouldn't like to do either, but I've always wanted to do a skydive.
I'm terrified, so I'd love to do it, but I think we bottle it to go.
No.
More on that later then, Helen.
More on that. Well, I thought it might have been quite appropriate as I was going along. Okay.
I've got a friend who runs a skydiving school in the lakes who I used to fly with, who's a pilot. So if anyone's interested, let me know. And he's a great guy, but no, not in a million years. Okay, then. Jimmy. Spring onion or lettuce?
Oh, spring onion.
Des Flanagan's clocked my spring onion, said Boss spring onion. That it's the best spring onion ever, isn't it? Okay. Right.
If I could only eat one thing, it'd have to be lettuce, because you wouldn't want to eat spring onion for the rest of your life.
All right, I'll give you that. If it was one or the other, it would be lettuce, yeah. Although it's very good for seasoning and things, and does brighten things up a bit, particularly noodles and stuff if you're doing Thai or Chinese food. Okay, go on, Hel.
Okay.
Rock and roll. Sorry, Jimmy.
Okay, so I want to say a massive thank you to the Childcare Academy who sponsor our show for this month. Okay, so it's a little bit Little People themed. Okay, would you rather go to a wacky warehouse or like a pool party, because you can do inflatables in swimming pools now, in swimming baths? So would you rather take them to a wacky warehouse or to an inflatable pool swimming wise? Jimmy?
God. Doesn't sound like there's a winning answer here. It's a no. It's a lose either way, really, isn't it? I'll go for the wacky warehouse.
What about you, San?
The wacky warehouse, or what was the other one?
It's like in a swimming baths. So they do big inflatables in swimming baths. So it's like a wacky warehouse in water, or a wacky warehouse in real life.
Wacky warehouse type thing. Although there are other companies that do that. A wacky warehouse, you can hide in the corner with a quick Bacardi when no one looks. Yeah. Like this. I used to find kids' parties so stressful, I can't tell you.
Yeah.
I hated them. The minute you got to secondary, we're like, bring a mate, we're going to Alton Towers. Much better.
I'd rather do the swimming one.
Potential drowning.
What about you, Sam? Next question.
Okay, so I'll go next then. Jimmy, keeping on the theme of the Childcare Academy, each week we've been doing a toy. As a kid, you prefer this or this? We've had jigsaw, Lego, stuff like that. Now, I'd let myself down here because I show my age, because I refer to toys and bands and groups that no one's heard of. So this could happen now, but we'll give it a go. The wind-up grandfather clock from Lego. No, Fisher Price. Hell no, Fisher Price. Anyway,
Fisher Price, yeah.
Made a song. Yay! Okay, the wind up, or
seen it on Antiques Roadshow.
Where you knock things through with Antiques Roadshow, where you knock it through with a hammer.
I'll go for the whacking stuff with a hammer. Whacking stuff's always good, isn't it? So
I'm going to go whacking stuff with a hammer, because that's the most boring toy to twist the thing.
I love that toy, and then it was the moon, and then the sun, whether it was night or day, and you could move the hands round. I love the grandfather clock.
Says a lot.
Okay, right, your go. They probably haven't got
Okay.
one in the nursery.
When you're writing, Jimmy, blue pen or black pen? Blue ink or black ink?
Black ink.
Blue. Blue. Preferably bright, yeah.
Oh, I'm black ink now.
A lot of people can't see black on white very well. If people have got issues with dyslexia or in plus my handwriting's I wrote skydive, but look at my handwriting, it's illegible.
Mine's terrible now. I used to have gorgeous handwriting.
I've never had gorgeous handwriting. That never happened.
Okay, your last go, San.
Okay. Would you rather eat in like an American diner or a very posh restaurant?
A very posh restaurant.
Me too, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think a posh restaurant.
Good.
Yeah. So we're all going on a posh restaurant.
Just in case Paul's listening.
I know. Jimmy and I met in the art school at the Corporate Connections event, so it's probably as well to say that, which is gorgeous.
Perfect. Well done. So we know a little bit more about Jimmy. Is this or that? Sandra, I'm going to let you introduce Jimmy because you met him. And then, Jimmy, we're going to hand it to you. You're going to tell us what's going on in life and how you got to where you are. Sandra and I will butt in at the same time and ask questions.
Yeah.
So, San, you introduce Jimmy.
Okie doke. So I met Jimmy at Brian's Corporate Connections event, which was at the art school restaurant. And Jimmy spoke to me about his own personal story briefly, which was just inspiring and fascinating. So if you could tell our listeners and viewers, how come you've ended up being in Liverpool, because you're obviously not from here originally, and your pathway and what it is you do for Northwest Cancer Research and how you came about to have the post you have.
No problem at all. So I suppose the first thing is when you touch upon me coming to Liverpool, maybe my accent doesn't clearly give it away too well, but I was actually born in Liverpool in 1979.
Show off.
Yeah, my mother is from Derry in Ireland, and my dad was from Liverpool. For some reason, my mum thought it would be better to live in a war-torn country than Liverpool at the time. Probably due to the fact that the Toxteth riots were just kicking off, and there was a lot of drugs in the city and things like that. So she took me back to Ireland. My mum and dad got divorced by the time I was about 8 or 9, that younger maybe. My dad came back to Liverpool, and then eventually he went back to Ireland, still lives there today. My mum's back in Ireland now, but I stayed. I didn't stay. I stayed in Ireland until I was 18, 19. And then just from my affiliation with Liverpool, I still had my granny here. I still had aunties and cousins. And I always grew up as a child coming to Liverpool on my holidays, spending time at the standard Llandudnos and South Ports of the world. And just from a very early age, I knew I wanted to come back as soon as I could. And the best, easiest way I could see that might happen would be by going to university. So went to John Moores, completed my studies there in around 2003. After which, done a bit of traveling for a couple of years around the world, and have to say it, people might not necessarily agree, but I've pretty much seen a lot of cities, a lot of places, and again, I just wanted to come back to Liverpool. There's always something that makes me feel happier being in Liverpool, and maybe it's the people, maybe it's the city, maybe it's the football team, maybe I don't know, but I wanted to relocate and stay back in Liverpool even after the traveling. So came back around 2005, started my career, started looking into proper work and things like that, and eventually sort of stumbled into the world of recruitment, which paved a really good career for me. Paid for my first and then my second house, paid for weddings, paid for children, paid for a lot of things, gave me a really good foothold in life. Again, allowed me to continue what I love doing in terms of traveling and getting as many music gigs as possible. So really good life, absolutely everything going perfectly well, couldn't complain. And then one day I woke up with some cramps in my stomach. Now, up until this point, I had a good career. You have the company car, you're getting your bonuses, and you're living the life. And then one morning you wake up and you've got these cramps in your stomach, and you're like, oh, what's this? So you ring up the work and say, you know, I'm just going to work from home today. No big issue, because everyone's been doing it with COVID, and so no surprises. But half an hour later, another phone call. Might have to switch the laptop off for a couple of hours. Got really bad cramps now, you know, so see how it goes. Might log on a bit later. But half an hour later, I came downstairs to my wife, who was working, and said, you know, something doesn't feel right here, if I'm honest. You know, it's a bit rough, and maybe it's something a vet, something, you know, haven't been out for a night out. It's definitely not the beer, you know. So I was thinking, what have I eaten that you haven't eaten? And again, couldn't really work it out what it might have been, or what was potentially causing the problem. But about 30-40 minutes later, I went from sort of talking to rolling around on the floor in complete agony, telling her, actually, you know, I know you said half an hour ago we should go to A&E, but I think you're right, I will go now. And I have to say, this was fantastic. We phoned for an ambulance, because I felt that I really needed to go in an ambulance immediately. And they said it was going to be half an hour, which I thought was fantastic, because you see on the news these days, you know, the stories of ambulance taking so long and this, that, and the other. But they were 30 minutes, they were telling us. So, but in the end, that was actually going to be too long for me to even wait the 30 minutes. So I said to my wife, I says, listen, I know I can't really sit in the car. I'm going to have to lie in the car. We're going to have to go straight to A&E. So off we go up the A&E. I go in, I'm expecting them. They tell me, you know, there's this or that, or we'll do this, or it's something, an inflammation or whatever, something, you know, not too dramatic. Well, that was probably the opposite of what happened, because within 30 minutes they had me in getting CT scans. They obviously were aware that I was in danger, and they told me they were going to open up a surgery for me specifically that evening. And then next thing I knew, following a few scans, I was lying on a surgery table with some fella with a big razor about to shave all my chest hairs away, because they were going to be basically doing a big full operation on me, and they had to clear all the hair. And I'm looking at this guy with a gown and the mask and the razor, thinking, well, this is a strange ending to the day. Didn't expect. And then, yeah, I woke up the next day in the hospital bed. I had a little sort of bag attached to me that I had never really heard about before. Ironically, my nan had one for years. Didn't pay much attention until it obviously affected me, as you do. And yeah, next thing you know, I was, you know, being told, well, that's where your poo goes, and that's attached to here, and, you know, hopefully that'll have sorted everything out and relieved the pressure. They basically told me that there was a lump or a blockage in my large bowel, and they'd said that this would relieve the tension of it and should fix it, and blah, 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 blah. Simple, straightforward operation. They've done it a million times. So I was lying there thinking, okay, fine. I do acknowledge that this, it's been sent away for, you know, as a biopsy. Is it going to be, you know, anything, cancer or whatever? I knew that was happening. But at this point, I was just, okay, well, happy days. Wasn't that bad. I woke up feeling fine. That bag's been, I'm told that's temporary. So I was lying there, and then people visited during the day, and the evening came, and people went, and you sort of gather your thoughts. And then next thing, I started getting really bad pains again. And I was like, oh God, what, you know, what is this? If they've already operated and they've done this and they've done that, what's this now? So I was lying there in the bed, and this pain continued right through the night until eventually a doctor came first thing about 5 or 6 in the morning. And they basically just said, listen, we've already operated on you once. That was a straightforward operation. You know, 1 in a million chances things can go wrong. Unfortunately, we're going to have to operate again. It's going to be major surgery this time. And because we have already opened you up, there is a big risk around doing that again. and there's like 1 in 100 chances that this might end in not the right way. So obviously at this point, 6 o'clock in the morning, I know my wife is at home, probably just about to get up and get the kids ready for school, and life cracks on and goes on as normal. So text them and said, I love you. If anything happens to me, please meet somebody else, have a good life, enjoy yourself. Don't worry about me. Tell the kids I love them, give them a big hug and a kiss. If something happens to me, just don't remember me like this. Remember me in the positive ways, and I love you all. And you sort of send the text message, and then next thing you know, I'm having a chat to the guy with a razor again, and he's going, okay, I don't have to take off as much hair this time, So I'm like, okay. And then next thing, you're back out, and eventually you come round again, and woke up, and when I came round this time, I was not in a great way, very confused, pain all over, just not in a good way at all. So over the course of the next 4 weeks, I lost 3 stone. So I was never a heavier person to start with. I was always around 11 stone, 11 and a half stone. So I lost 3 stone. I had the bag that I had on this side that sealed up, and a different bag put on this side. I had my large bowel removed completely. And I was lying in a bed with pipes on this arm, pipes on that arm, mask on, pipe shoved up my nose, pipe down my throat. And you're thinking, God, this is horrendous. And this is before you've actually found out if there's any problem in terms of, cancer and things like that. So for the next couple of weeks, I just had to put the cancer thing to the back of my mind. I just had to think, this is about getting my body, my mind, me, I just need to get back myself before I can think about managing what else is in front of me. So I just went all out. I was looking around in the hospital, and, I was seeing people not eating, and they were there for weeks and months, and seeing people who wouldn't get out of their beds and walk, people who wouldn't change their bag, and I was sort of sitting there and chatting to a couple of people who were doing things, and they're saying, just do this and get out of here. And the doctor was saying, until we see you doing this and that, you're going nowhere. And in my head, I had the start of the football season. If I could get out for the start of the football season, now believe me, I haven't got out for the football season. I was a bit sorry I did in the end, because we were that bad for the rest of the season. But that was the goal. You always have to set a goal. You won't achieve stuff if you don't set goals. So I just sort of set that goal to myself. I want to get out at that point. I want to be out clear then. Have to eat, start changing my bag, getting up myself, going to the toilet, washing myself, trying to do all the things that you really need to do. And then as I started to come round a bit more in my head, a little bit more, I started to actually look at the other people and be able to hear conversations they were having in and around the ward. And it just become very clear that actually a lot of these guys, they weren't not eating, or they weren't not doing certain things because they didn't want to. They were probably doing it because they didn't want to get out of hospital. Because in the ward, I had a lot of people in similar conditions to myself, and I was hearing that they're living in a 4th floor flat with no lift. They've got no family, they've got no support, they've got no income because they'll have now lost their job. They're on a 0-hour contract or whatever that might have been. And, people are saying, yeah, but we'll have social workers coming around and doing this and doing that. And they're saying, okay. And like, I knew myself, if someone was knocking at my front door down 4 flights and there was no lift, there's no way I was being able to go down and answer that door. So they were probably afraid to go home. So from sitting feeling sorry for myself, really, at the start, I started immediately looking around everybody else and thinking, I'm actually in a really good place. I've got a supportive family. I've got a lot of loved ones. Luckily enough, we'd had holidays booked, this, that, and other. So I had a few pound in the bank and things that we could not go ahead with effectively. They save money and, not have to worry about not being paid and things like that. And I looked around at other people, and I just really was gutted for them and gutted for some of the people, really nice people they talk to, and you build relationships with these people. So as my time sort of approached, the 3-4 weeks, and I was looking at getting out myself, obviously then you're sitting on the bed, you're getting a bit of strength, you're getting a bit of confidence. And, the lady comes round and she goes, "Oh, hi, I'm blah blah from Clatterbridge." And straight away you go, okay, here we go. It's only one story here I'm getting. So yeah, it was what we expected. It was bowel cancer. But the good news is it was only stage 2 from what we can see so far. It hasn't broke through to your kidneys or anywhere else, or your pancreas. If it had it would have been palliative care. So again, you're going, lucky again, And they said that the only reason, the reason I was so lucky is because of where my blockage was. If it had been anywhere else, it would have just kept growing and becoming more infectious and breaking into different areas. But where mine was, it was blocking basically the passageways. So it created me problems quicker than it would in other people. And that sort of notified me to the pain they have to go in. If that hadn't happened, then potentially I was going to be, a year later, 6 months later, being told, unfortunately, it's gone too far. So I, again, counted me blessings and thought, God, I was lucky. And, I really took it positively, if I'm honest. I was thinking, you can't let these things get to you. So I came out of hospital, started getting myself as fit as I could, getting out walking, even initially, had the walk basically around the house, then eventually to the bottom of the street, then get my wife to drive us to the park and maybe have a little walk in the park, and then I sit down, and eventually you just get your strength, get your confidence, start getting back out there. And, one of the things as well that I really felt was something that we should talk about on here is, I never thought something like this would happen to me. So I'm always a very, I just get on with life. I don't worry about stuff. I'm very positive. And, my wife's probably the opposite. She's very compliant. She's very this and that and the other. So for years, she's been saying, you need to get some life insurance. You need to get this cover. You need to get that cover. So next thing I'm being told by work, I know you've been here 14 years, but unfortunately we can't pay you because it's company policy. So when you sit and consider the fact that you've been there a long time, you immediately start to think, okay, it's my fault. I didn't, cover myself. I never protected my income. I never done these things. So you sort of become aware that you should have done that. And now from talking to people and having the chance to talk about my story, I know quite a lot of people who went out and got personal sort of income cover, or especially people who are self-employed and things like that. I would really advise that that's something really worth doing. So anyway, came back and I started actually then thinking, okay, so, this is how much I'm valued in the business. And then this is the corporate world for you. It will eat you up and chew you up and spit you out. And if I'm honest, on the run up to actually being diagnosed with cancer, before I was actually aware of that, I'd started to look around at some charities and things like that I would potentially like to work at before I was sick. And you always sort of go, oh, can I miss out on the pay? Can I miss out on the extra bonuses? Can I afford not to have a company car? Can I not have this, not have that? And you start to, chip away at what you want to do because you're putting things that you can actually overcome in the way, and it's yourself putting up those barriers. So when I eventually got myself back on my feet, but actually I just want to go back. Before I went and got sick, I'd been in Glastonbury, come back from Glastonbury, I'd applied for this another company, another type of charity, and then I ended up withdrawing my application just before Glastonbury. Came back, got sick, and then I'm lying in bed. Then I'm out of bed, roll on a couple of months, I'm getting better, and I happened to notice this couple of different types of jobs for charities, which I started to look into and do a bit of research. Stumbled across Northwest Cancer Research. Everybody's heard of Macmillan. Everybody's heard of Cancer Research UK. Personally, I'd never heard of Northwest Cancer Research, I drove past the old Roy Castle building
Yeah.
a million times in my life because my nan used to live in top of Kensington and Kenny by the market. So, you know, I was down past the Roy Castle probably a million times and, you know, never actually stood out as anything except the Royal Castle.
Yeah.
Started looking into Northwest Cancer Research and, you know, I was blown away by what they do. Mainly because, as I said, you know, I love Liverpool. I love being in Liverpool. And in the Northwest, being here in Liverpool, a lot of my friends are from not just Liverpool, but the Northwest. I've got friends up in Cumbria. I love going to North Wales, you know, and I started reading about Northwest Cancer Research and what they do and how they specifically fund research and how they specifically, you know, work within our local communities and in the local areas and in terms of trying to create a better and bigger awareness around cancer, looking for those signs early so that we don't, you know, get to the point where we're being told it's too far, it's palliative care. So, you know, I was looking and they'd funded £45 million worth of research since 2000. All their money goes into the local hospitals and universities here in the Northwest. And, you know, from working there, you know, they've patented loads of good ideas and things over the last, you know, few months alone since I've been there. So I was blown away by them, done my due diligence. You look at where the money's going, what they're spending it on and things like that. And, you know, I would never knock any other charities, but I just felt the Macmillans and the Cancer Research UKs, for example, they were very London-centric. The money seems to go in the London and work its way into these areas.
And just to say, really, as well, when it's a Northwest thing, you know the money is going locally and the works local, etc. We've got a friend, Diane Cannon, who's been on our show, not this year, but last year in May. And she's from their charity's called Melanoma UK.
Yeah.
It's based here. It was set up in Oldham, in fact, but Di's from Liverpool. Her niece died of skin cancer. And these two women, and they champion it. They absolutely champion it with consultants and things. And it's like Liverpool's got really high rates of cancer, haven't they, Jimmy? And because time's moving on, unfortunately, because your story's just incredible. What is it you actually do now for the charity? What is your role there for people who are listening and watching?
I'm the corporate partnerships manager, which means obviously we just talked about how we support the local area. So my job is to go to local businesses in the local area and ask them to continue to support us, to help us continue to fund that good research and things like that. And, you know, our mantra really is prevention rather than cure, trying to get in there early and keep that word out there and stop this happening to people. And, you know, my role within the organization is that. But then I could be dressed up as a bear, or I could be standing, you know, at the end of a cycle ride, or, you know, cheering people on to do a skydive. So it's very, very, very diverse. And, you know, the change from corporate into this sort of charity world has been a big change, but absolutely, you know, loving every moment of it. And, you know, every now and again, every couple of weeks, I'll have somebody come up and say, you know what, I heard you chatting the other day, or was speaking to you a few weeks ago, and I actually went and seen the doctor, and you know what, I was worried about this for ages, and they told me it's nothing. And the peace of mind I have, there's the peace of mind. So, you know, without going into maybe a story where somebody has actually really benefited, just a peace of mind. If you've got something worrying you, just go to the doctor. All these businessmen who are chasing the next deal, that email is more important, or that meeting's more important, or I can't go to that doctor's appointment because I can't take that day off. You know, you can't drive your own business, and you can't, you know, do things in the future if you get sick, you know. So please just go and get checked out. And, you know, if you wanted to have a look at Northwest Cancer Research, northwestcancerresearch.org. We've got loads
of... Sorry, Jim, is it just www? Oh, where's my little...
We'll share it in the comments.
Yeah,
so
brilliant.
It's www.
Northwest, NWCR. .org.
Okay, so people can have a little look if they want to, you know, and have a little look at that. But we've got a few people listening. So Dan Eddie Tate is listening in, and he says inspirational stuff, Jimbo. And Mark Kingham says great work, Jimmy. I'd just like to say, Jimmy, before you had your tummy pains and everything like that, did you have any symptoms, or were you a little bit like, oh, I'm you know, whatever?
Yeah, fab question, Helen. I definitely did. Over 5, 6, 7 years, I'd probably gone to the GP on and off. For a couple of times, I was told, "Oh, it's nothing. You're too young. It's irritable bowel." A couple of times, it was said it's probably something in your diet. So I played around with a few things. Eventually, I got it down to 2 things it might be: tea and red wine. So I was praying it was going to be tea, even though I went through about 10 cups a day. And I used to get blood in my poo. And I was getting the blood in my poo for about a year, kept going to the doctor, and they kept saying, "Oh, it'll be something, or it'll be bile, just, take something out of your diet." And if I'm absolutely honest, that when I stopped drinking the tea, the blood stopped. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. But then, after that, I still had rumblings a few different times. I went to the doctor, and every man wants to avoid getting a finger stuck up their bum, let's face it. But, I had to go, I had that done. And every time I was told, "No, that's nothing." And, back, maybe I was young, maybe I was immature, maybe I wasn't forceful enough, maybe I hadn't experienced life enough. But what I tell people now is, if you're not happy with what your GP is telling you, ask them to mark it down on your file and say, "Listen, can you mark it down that I'm not happy with that? I wanted a scan, or I wanted this." And you've told me no, because at that point, it's on them then. If anything happens, that's on your record. Be forceful. Don't accept no. And, if it really, really gets to the point where you're not getting what you need, and I hate to say it because, the NHS and the Royal Liverpool, it was a dump. I was in the old Royal when I was in there. It was a dump. But the staff are fantastic in there. Couldn't say 10 out of 10. Couldn't say anything about them. Brilliant. The NHS, fantastic. They're just getting let down. So, as I say, just be more forceful with the GPs. And if you really, really can't get what you need from them, even if it's a preliminary sort of private checkup, if you can afford it, just go and get it done and then move on to the NHS then. But yeah, definitely. And, I've heard of a lot of people since then who've gone to their GPs with problems, and some of them aren't here today.
Yeah. And I bizarrely, just the week before I met you, I'd gone to an event, and some ladies from your charity did this demonstration, and they go out to schools and do it, and it's fantastic. And basically, you make your poo. So they've got a boat, they've got all these different things, and it looks disgusting, and a pair of tights, and they do this thing, and you're like, it's, even though it's just like food, it looks disgusting.
I've done it in the schools. It's brilliant. They love it.
The kids would absolutely love it. I can just imagine. So it's very powerful, the message. And so in terms of, is there anything, is it just like a lottery, or are there some preventative things we can do, to help ourselves, hopefully to help avoid it? Or obviously in some cases,
100%. I mean, living here in the Northwest, we're 25% more likely to encounter cancer in our lifetime. And in Liverpool, it's something like, 75, 76% higher that you're going to get potentially lung cancer. And what we've found through our research is actually every little location has a different sort of cancer that affects them.
Wow.
And then alongside that, there's different rates of mortality and, things like that. And when we look at it, it's a network of things, really. It's, the environment, it's, it's drinking, smoking, eating. If you don't smoke, you reduce your drinking and you eat healthily, you're going a long way to, helping yourself. Obviously, there's genetic as well. So, again, healthy eating, reduce your alcohol intake, no smoking, sun protection, keep yourself covered. So again, I'm going up in July to do the Whitehaven Summer Fair. I've got a few friends who live up there, so it'll be good to do that in that location, and support that community. And up there, their problem cancer is head and neck cancer, and apparently it's nothing to do with Sellafield. There's been millions of tests and experiments, and there's nothing that affiliates the two. So from being up there, I can only imagine maybe it's the Lake District. If it gets sunny, what do people want to do? Take the tops off and go out and, I used to do it myself. So
100%.
Get your sun cream on.
So can I just ask, is it all cancers you support. So if anybody was, you know, feeling a little bit or knew somebody or something like that, then any, you know, it's not a specific cancer, it's sort of any cancer that somebody could get in touch with your organization.
To be fair, people, I would recommend if somebody wanted to talk about a cancer experience, I personally, after my cancer experience, I had good conversations with Macmillan because they act as a really good support. Our charity is more, as I say, it's more centered around the prevention. So we do the lab tech training in schools to try and, at an early age, talk to children about what they're eating. We will do sunscreen ninjas with them to help them to, you know, make sure they're sun protected. We'll go into the communities. We'll talk to businesses, invite businesses and as part of their well-being, talk to them about, for example, my story and you know, and things like that. So we're very much about the prevention side and the awareness. And then beyond that, ours is, as I said earlier, it's going into a lot of the research and looking into new treatments. Because if you know people with cancer now, you know, in the old days, people used to get radio and chemo. I was really lucky. They basically removed all my bile and told me there'd be absolutely very, very limited, you know, benefit from having radio and chemo. So now the treatments can be a lot more specific, a lot more focused and depending on where and what it is. So again, you know, that's all down to research. We've moved on in terms of cancer treatment in the last, you know, year, never mind the last 10 years. And again, the research we do and the funding we need will help us, you know, deliver better treatments in the future and hopefully in the future down the line, you know, a cancer-free world. But I don't know, it seems at pandemic levels at the moment, if I'm honest, there's so many people affected. It's crazy.
So Jimmy, if people, because I know time's moving on, if people want to help your charity and get in touch, support you or do a fundraiser for you or donate or anything like that, can they just go onto the website?
Yeah, if they go onto the website, if they catch me on LinkedIn, they can drop me an email, anything. If you're a business and you want to do something, getting your team involved, well-being, if you want to do something as an individual, if you just want to have a chat and see what we can do together, you know,
brilliant.
We rely and depend on people. So
okay, amazing. So we've just got lots of people listening. So Vera Jones is listening in. She says, "Amazing, Jimmy. This is the first time I've heard of your charity, Northwest Cancer Research, and I'm the same. I've not heard of it." Kuljeet's listening. Great advice, Jim. Jerry Jones, brilliant, Jim. Miriam Kerrins, your son, man, Jim. And Auntie Emma says, Siobhan Sweeney, really proud of you. Talk about resilience, and that's the thing, isn't it? It's about I think before when you said you took it positively, and you know you have had you've probably, you know, sat there and had your dark times, but then you've looked around and thought, hang on a minute, how am I going to help people? And I think that's you know, testament to you of getting out there and using your story in a positive way, isn't it? You know, to share with other people and stuff. So, you know, hats off to you for that.
In a selfish way, it's helped me as well, if I'm honest. You know, being able to talk openly to people about cancer and experiences, you know, it's good to talk, as they say. So as much as I have used this as a positive and want to help people, you know, in a selfish way, it has helped me as well. So thank you to anyone who's listened to my story.
Definitely. It's really inspirational. It's amazing. And we'll have a little look, and every time you're doing something, we'll share it, you know, on our platforms and
fantastic
our pages and platforms.
Brilliant. Thank you.
To listen in and stuff like that. So before, when I was talking about skydive or bungee, and you said, haha, more about that later. Have you got anything planned? Do you have any fundraisers?
No, I was going to say, if you fancy doing a skydive, we're always looking for people, but the uptake in the skydives is skydived recently, so nosedived.
Nosedived, yeah. Okay. I'm like,
yeah. If you fancy it, Helen,
there's an airplane with a seat already. I would love to do it. I think the feeling would be amazing of like flying. Yeah, I think it'd be amazing. No, brilliant. So if anybody wants to get involved, and if anybody wants to get in touch with us, we can connect you with Jimmy, you know, and we'll look out for his posts and things, and we'll share loads of stuff on. So brilliant. Stay with us, Jim, because we've got a few more little things to go through. But thanks very much for sharing your story. And it really, like Sandra said to me, you know, oh, I can't wait to get Jimmy on the show. She said, you know, when she met you, you were ill. And then a few of the things that you said really, really touched me. And I think sometimes when it touches somebody like that, it makes them then think, doesn't it, of support and stuff. So amazing, brilliant, well done. So we have a little section called a red face moment, something slightly embarrassing that's happened that people can laugh along with, not at you. So Sandra and I normally have millions. I've got,
I don't know. We're going to have a Busey one soon. I can imagine it.
We'll have a belter after next week, I think. I've got like a funny one, sort of thing. But Jimmy, have you got a red face? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, go on. I mean, there's probably a few people listening now who could tell you worse ones. They're probably half writing in now and then deleting it, hopefully. But there was one time in Lisbon when I was away with my wife Kate, and we were just in some nice little coffee shop, and you had to walk up these stairs, and as you were leaving, and it overlooked the whole coffee shop, and I was walking up with her coffee and my coffee, and a couple of croissants squeezed on my arm, and I was turning around to sort of see where Kate was, and I've turned around just to walk on out the door, and it was just a big massive glass door, and I've just literally walked in the head, big bruise in my head. Coffees have gone all over the glass, all over me. Croissants are squashed on the floor, and obviously they've got the whole theatre down below just all looking up at me, laughing their heads off, and I'm thinking, okay, that was a bit embarrassing. Let's leave here and not come back.
Oh, Jimmy, that's my life. That's just normal for us. We don't mention those things because they are.
I was going to say I'm normally not that accident prone and things.
Oh, so that's shocking.
Kulji says that's tame. So
it is tame.
Yeah. But it is before 9 o'clock, so we've got to be
before 9 and it's live.
Very careful, yeah.
So it was Father's Day on Sunday, and I thought, right, what am I going to get my dad? And I normally buy an experience for us to go and do something. Okay, so we go like to the cricket, or we'll go to the golf or something like that, the footy or whatever we go. And so I'm a member of Lancashire Cricket Club now because I've bought that many tickets over the years. So I thought, I'll go on. Anyway, it come up and it said the Ashes, Australia versus England. And I thought, God, that's good, isn't it? So it's a 5-day test, right? And day 5 was still available. And I thought, God, that's like really good because that's the last day. That's when it's going to be the most exciting. So I bought the tickets and wrote in his card. Anyway, went round. He opened his card and he read it and he went, oh, great. He says, day 5. Yeah. Then he goes, you do know that if they win after like 3 days, they don't play on day 5. So they very rarely play on day 5.
Oh.
So I was like, well, why did they sell them? I thought, they might win, but then they'd come and do like a little bit of an exhibition, but they don't. So if they win on day 3 or 4, you just get your money back.
Oh.
So I was like, we'll have to do something else. So we're praying for rain the week of the July test when it's in Old Trafford. We're going on the Sunday, so I'm going to pray for rain on like the Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then the Saturday and Sunday they'll have to play and it'll be boss.
Usually always rains in Manchester anyway, doesn't it? So.
Exactly. Yeah. So we're on quite a fair bet there, aren't we? Yeah. So that's my sort of little red face. Okay. Shout out to the grown-ups, any grown-ups who've done amazing things this week. Do you want to go first, Sam?
James, I'm shouting out to James for coming on our show. It's the first time he's ever done a show like no one's ever done a show like this, let's face it, but something like this. And so I think you've done really well and everything, and just to speak so freely and openly about what really was an absolute trauma, let's face it, and not just for you but for your family, and all the positive comments you've had. You see you've got so much love and support from people and everyone's so proud of you. So absolute massive shout out for you, and thank you for coming on the show.
100%. James, have you got any Jimmy? Look, James, he hasn't even been naughty. Jimmy, have you got any people that you've grown up you want to shout out to?
Well, just everybody who supported me over the last year, they'll all know who they are, from me, my wife and me, mum and dad and sisters and cousins, everybody you can think of, literally absolutely everybody, friends, all absolutely just were on top. Couldn't have asked for a better bunch of people to be around me when I needed them the most. So I can't really specify one person. I'll have to share the load, as they say.
Amazing. Big shout out to everyone. I'm going to give a shout out to Graham Souness.
From the channel?
Just from the channel. He raised £1 million.
As you did.
I saw an interview of him before he did. It was about maybe 3 or 4, maybe the end of the season, and they were having a little chat with him about. And I've never ever seen anybody so touched by something when he was talking about it and the reasons why he was raising it. And he was like that emotional. He couldn't speak, and he had to keep on talking.
Cried a little bit.
Yeah, and it was just I loved the fact that he showed his emotion and he was happy to do so, and then he went on and he swam and he's raised £1 million, and it's all of these people going out and doing amazing things. So if anybody wants to swim the channel for Jimmy's charity,
yeah, by all means, please do.
please do, and raise £1 million because that'd be amazing. Yeah. Myra Dooley says they're so proud of you, Jimmy. Well done. Perfect.
Me auntie.
Another auntie, gorgeous. We love it when the auntie's listening in. Okay, what are you reading or listening to that could be of a little bit for you, San? What are you listening to, reading at the moment?
I finished the Tina Turner one, In Pursuit of Happiness, and I would just recommend that to anybody. And it's not just about it's not like, oh yeah, be dead happy. It's not about that. It's just about her ethos. Even just the quotations, the mantras, the people she quotes in it are just, every single thing is so inspirational. And about visualization and just fantastic. Such a brilliant thing. So I finished that, but I have been listening to Howl and Laughing to Abby Clancy and Peter Crouch podcast. She's hilarious, Yes. She's just so funny. And she just makes me laugh, really good. And he's dead nice. He's got a lovely way about him. So I've really been enjoying listening to that over the weekend.
Brilliant. They're lovely together. I think they really bounce off each other. They've got a great little relationship.
About his height and everything.
What about you, Jimmy? What are you reading or listening to?
You know what? I started reading a while back. You might like this one, Sandra, because of obviously your Chataway links, but I started reading it because I love the use of language. So I started reading the Iliad and the Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
Just because of the use of language and the structure of stuff. And it's a hard going read, I have to admit. So it's a slow burner. And since my operation, I can't get far in a book without nodding off these days. But on top of that, my little girl, she's just nearly 8 now. So I've been loving just going back over all the Roald Dahls with her, that are bringing back childhood memories. And we've just finished The Hobbit. So, quite a few bits and bobs.
Have you been to Catalonia?
I have.
Yeah. Okay. So if you go over to Ithaca, that's where Theseus is meant to be from. Obviously, it's mythical, but that. So when you see it, you're just like, oh yeah. And the language is translated from the original ancient Greek, so it is quite formal in that. Yeah. But what a brilliant thing to read.
Yeah, it's fab.
Quite hard going. Yeah. What about you?
I'm just going to bring it right down now after that.
Okay, that's I was listening to Abby Clancy. I wouldn't worry.
No, well done. So I was having a conversation last week about ChatGPT and that it's going to take over the world and everything like that, right? So I thought, right, I need to get down with the kids and everybody else and find out a little bit more of it. So there is a podcast, which is The Diary of a CEO, which is Steve Butler. So I've not listened to any of them, but somebody has sent me the link. Sofa sent me the link. And it's 2 hours. It's a 2-hour podcast, but it's all about ChatGPT and how it's going to change and influence and things like that. I think it's dead cool that I can type something in and it writes it for me. I think that's like the easy thing.
It doesn't replace the knowledge in your head.
No, but it'll give it's a good way for certain people to do certain things. So it's never going to, because you can then go in and amend it. So you need to check it and everything like that. So it's not going to take over the world, but it's it's a cool thing, I think. But I need to know about it, because if you don't know about it, then you're left behind, aren't you? And you haven't got
yeah, absolutely. Stephen Bartlett, he's been my favorite podcast and has been for a long time.
Yeah. So I'm listening to that. It's 2 hours, like it is a bit hard going and stuff.
I might listen to it because I've got FOMO about it now.
I'll share it with you. We can't have anything because we have bad FOMO over each other.
We're London on Sunday for work.
So next week we'll have loads of red faces and everything.
We'll have everything.
So massive thank you, Jimmy, for giving your time.
Thank you.
And sharing everything. Thank you to everybody for listening. It's been amazing. We love it when we get comments and things like that. Thank you so much for that. And we do have a closing quote or a mantra. And Jimmy, we're going to hand it over to you to close the show. So thanks very much, and we'll see everybody next week.
No worries. Just from a Liverpool man himself, life is what happens when you're busy making other plans.
Very much so.
Amazing. Thank you very much, and we'll see everybody next week. Take care.
Thank you.